You can't see it, but Eric's playing the intro bit on the StreamYard. That's why we're waiting. Sorry, I should tell you that.
No problem.
I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati.
Okay. The connection isn't great.
All right. Welcome to Sab's podcast. I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati. My special guest today, you've seen him here before, Professor Marandi. He is a professor at the University of Tehran. Professor Marandi, welcome back. And how are you? How are you doing given everything that's happening?
Hi, Sabrina. Thank you very much for inviting me. Things are okay. They've slowed down the internet for security reasons, and so I had to find a place to be able to be with you and to be able to use the internet for programs like this. So I'm the connection here isn't great either, but besides that, all else is fine.
Okay, so let's start from the beginning. Thursday night, when I was live, there was an alert that Israel struck Iran. Now, from what I've been gathering and what I've been paying attention to in the news, Donald Trump was supposed to have a meeting with Iran on Sunday. So Israel decided to strike Iran before then. Um, Obviously, I think we all know why. What's interesting about that as well is after Israel decided to strike Iran, Benjamin Netanyahu got on a plane and fled to Greece. And this is one of the times when I question, for the Israeli people, like for them to feel as though it's okay for him to get on a plane and run away at a time after he was the one that threw the first punch and then he just leaves everybody else there. That's one thing that I've been wondering about. But another thing is, what was it like in Tehran during that moment? And then we'll get to the retaliatory strikes from Iran. Were you near where the strike happened? Was there a lot of panic, or were people more so anticipating this?
Well, first, I just would like to point out that uh, Greece is harboring a genocidal maniac who's carrying out a Holocaust, and history will remember the role that Greece has played in all of this. It is not the sunny island where people go for tourism. It is an island where the leadership has been deeply complicit in crimes against humanity for the last 20 months. Well, the Iranian armed forces was on alert and they were expecting an attack. I don't think they were expecting a strike on senior military officials or senior government officials. because that would be a different level of conflict. And they got that wrong, but they were expecting an attack. The first day was, I think, a very tough day for ordinary Iranians because they had lost senior commanders, and these were people who were war heroes. Some of them served during the whole 8 years of war when Saddam Hussein invaded Iran as volunteers or as military personnel in the front lines during the whole 8 years. They weren't people who were, let's say, working in Tehran. They were on the battlefield. Many of them had multiple wounds. So for older people like myself, some of their names were still remembered quite well. And the attacks, it's very interesting how the Western media likes to depict this as some sort of fantastic intelligence operation. What they did was they just bombed buildings where these people lived, for the most part, and or where they were at work. But what they did, one building which is not far from my house, from where we live, our apartment, 60, I've been just told on a couple of hours ago, 65 people, if I'm not mistaken, were killed, including 20 some children. So they wiped out the entire building, everyone in the building, so that they could get one or two people. This is what the Israeli regime is, and it shouldn't surprise any of us because they've been carrying out a Holocaust for the last 20, 21 months now. They've carried out genocidal attacks in Lebanon, and Western media, Western governments, Western elites, think tankers, they don't care. I remember when I was in Beirut, and I may have told you this before. Sorry for repeating myself if I have. When I was in Beirut, I was there when the war started, and Western journalists were the Al Jazeera journalist, by the way, she was in Beirut and she was bad mouthing Iran as the Israelis were bombing the city and bombing people's apartments. And I protested to her. I mean, she was just as the Israelis were just bombing the city. She was saying Iran is evil, Iran is, and she's one of their top experts on the region and on Iran. So that says a lot about Al Jazeera, and of course, Qatar is deeply involved in all of this, but I'll get to that later. So the journalists, the Western journalists in Beirut, their fixers were Lebanese, their drivers were Lebanese, their producers were Lebanese. Many of them lived in southern Beirut, but they were saying that these are Hezbollah strongholds, these are Hezbollah targets, and they knew they were lying, all of them, every single one of them, because their own people were living, some of them were living in these towns or in southern Beirut, and they knew that the Israeli regime was implementing the Dahiya doctrine, which is flatten Beirut. And you saw just, I think, yesterday, the Israeli defense minister said, we're going to burn Tehran. I mean, these are genocidal maniacs. Burn Gaza, burn Beirut. These are, and this is what the West supports. This is what Western journalists support, mainstream journalists. This is what Western.
Yeah. We'll give him a second here, guys, because again, I think his internet connection is a little bit slower. But to his point, that's what Western journalists support, like CNN and Fox News and MSNBC. They support the destruction of Iran. They support the destruction of Gaza. Like they want the people gone. We'll give them just a second here. I don't know if you can hear me, but I'll put it in the chat. Tell him. Yeah, we'll give him a second, guys. His connection, so they've slowed down the internet connection in Iran. So it's difficult, I think, for people. We'll see if if Professor Marandi is able to get back in. But you guys, like so far, I think you guys have seen a lot of the attacks that have been happening. If you're on X, if you're on social media, we can't play those videos obviously on YouTube, but if you've seen those, you know what I'm talking about, right? So Israel threw the first punch, not Iran. Israel decided to strike Iran knowing that there were going to be discussions, meeting with Donald Trump on Sunday, and they decided to do it anyway. And another thing I want to add here too, I told you Thursday night that I didn't believe that the Trump administration had no idea that Israel was going to strike Iran. And it has been revealed the day after that Trump absolutely knew that Israel was going to strike Iran, and they supported it. That's Donald Trump and Marco Rubio. So again, this is not a secret. Western media, or at least I think Donald Trump was trying to convince people, trying to convince his supporters that he knew nothing about this and that he was just striving towards peace. That was false. It's been reported on multiple outlets. Also, Fox News even reported it, that Donald Trump gave the go ahead. So here we go again. We're starting to see similarities with the Biden administration, whereas they tried to pretend as though they didn't know that Bibi was going to go as hard as he did. They 100% knew. So never fall for that type of what do we want to call it? That type of narrative that the US government or government intel has no idea and is not aware of what their allies are going to do. They are 100% aware. They are fully aware. So that has been revealed. Another thing that has been coming out recently in the news, again, like I said, we can't show the actual attacks on YouTube, but if you are on X, there's a number of videos that show that Iran didn't just respond, they really kind of threw, and this isn't even throwing everything that they have at Israel, but they've thrown hundreds of missiles at Israel at this point in time. And the destruction is not small. The videos and the pictures and the images that I have seen, the destruction is, some of it looks like what we have seen in Gaza. Because what people fail to understand is that those hypersonic missiles can get through the Iron Dome. And I think that some people thought that the Iron Dome would block any type of, action or anything like that. That's false. Those missiles can get through. Now, Benjamin Netanyahu is asking the US, and this was all a part of the plan. Now, Benjamin Netanyahu is asking the United States government to come in and help them, or to go back to the negotiation table with Iran. But if Israel didn't strike Iran in the first place, they wouldn't be in this situation because there was already going to be a meeting at the negotiation table with Iran. So there's that. I think Professor Marandi is back. I was just giving them the update about Donald Trump lying and Marco Rubio lying, that they didn't know, that they weren't involved. They didn't know that Israel was going to strike Iran. And now even Western media has released that information that they did in fact know. Of course, they gave the go ahead, but go ahead, Professor.
Yes, sorry, I'm using my cell phone internet. The Wi-Fi here isn't working well.
So, no worries. Go ahead.
So the point is that they were striking civilian targets. This was not sophisticated at all. They were just murdering people. But the Western media likes to portray the Mossad and Israel as sophisticated, and they're trying, in fact, to whitewash their Holocaust in Gaza by starting afresh and putting them in a positive light and how sophisticated and how effective they are. Any surprise attack, even though the Iranians were on high alert, but any surprise attack is going to cause a certain amount of devastation. That's how it works. But so in my neighborhood, they hit a building. In neighborhoods near my neighborhood, they hit other buildings. Today they've carried out bomb attacks. The Israeli Air Force hasn't actually been very effective in the last couple of days. So Iran's air defenses, which on the first day were not prepared for this sort of onslaught, now they're doing much better. And the Israeli regime, what they're doing is they don't have Mossad inside Iran. What they have is they have mercenaries that they find on WhatsApp or Telegram or elsewhere, and they pay them Bitcoin and that sort of thing to carry out terrorism or some sort of activity to help the Israeli regime. And quite a few of them have been arrested. But it's not as if there's a Mossad base in Iran. And I was on Sky News, and the host was saying, yes, Mossad has set up a base in Iran. And I said, how do you know this? Just because the Israelis say so, you just take everything they say at face value. So they've been trying to create this invincible image of the Israeli regime, a regime that's has shown that after 20 months it's been unable to take Gaza, and in the war in Lebanon it was failed to take even a single town until after the ceasefire. Then they went and took parts of Lebanon in violation of the ceasefire. But that first day was very tough. People were very upset, and in the evening there were demands that the government respond. People were going to the streets and demanding retaliation, and they were all in all the different cities. And but swiftly they put in new commanders to replace the old ones. And the first night, as you know, and as your viewers know, the Iranians began retaliation. And last night, the retaliation continued. And today, during the day, they've also struck the Israeli regime. And I think that the Israeli regime is losing momentum. And now Iran's momentum is building. And that is why Trump, I think, made this Truth Social statement, posted this Truth Social statement talking about peace. Until now, he was saying how fantastic this attack was and how great things were going. Well, apparently things are not going as well as planned. But yes, and this, I think, what Trump has done is he has shown how he's shown his duplicity. Not only does he flip-flop, not only does he constantly change his position, but in this case, he was trying to deceive the Iranians from the start. There was no intention to solve the nuclear program or the nuclear issue at the negotiating table. Behind the scenes, they were preparing to kill Iranians. And the scenes that we saw in Tehran were like in Beirut and Gaza. You know, kids thrown out of the building, people crushed under buildings, under rubble, the targeting of innocent civilians, ordinary factories. They struck a car factory. So, the Israeli regime has no red lines. And it's obvious why. When you're an ethno-supremacist regime, when the people around you are subhuman, when you are the chosen people, then obviously you can do whatever you want. It's just like, it's the only difference is that in the West today, the elites pretend that somehow they're different from their predecessors in the 19th and 20th centuries, when they would colonize countries, they'd take slaves, they'd destroy cities and towns and tribes and villages and people. The only difference now is that they pretend that they're doing it in the name of human rights and civilization, and now it's being done on camera. What's totally new today is everything is in front of us, but still they have the audacity to pretend that all is fine. But in any case, I see the tide is turning, and the Iranians, I think, tonight are going to hit the Israeli regime very hard.
Yes, let's talk about that, because I've watched the videos, and I remember, I think the first video that I saw, and it was the hypersonic missiles coming through, and I said, well, there goes the Iron Dome. And I want to send this message to the American people. Just think about all the money that was spent to establish that Iron Dome, and it doesn't even stop the hypersonic missiles. Do you feel like there's been a debate online, you've probably seen this. Do you feel as though Iran is being too soft on Israel, or do you feel that the response is proportionate? And I ask that question because some people are warning that if Iran does not get to Benjamin Netanyahu, that the Israeli, military are going to take out uh, Iranian leaders to cause total chaos in Iran. And then, of course, I think we would know what would happen from there, right? The US government would come in and say, we need regime change in Iran. And we saw all that with Libya and other countries alike. And I'm curious, do you think that the response right now is still measured, or do you feel like the response from Iran is softer than the way that Israel? Because I'll tell you right now, I think Israel would just go full speed ahead right now. What do you think?
There was something that you said first that I wanted to respond to, and I can't remember what it was. Um, I'm very tired. Sorry, I haven't slept much. I haven't really met many people during the last couple of days, and I just every now and then call people and see what's happening. So, I'm sometimes I know less about what's going on than people on the streets, but people following social media, they know more than me right now. But let me put it this way. First of all, the Iranians are warming up. They're just beginning. These new commanders that have taken over, although they're generals and they've been there for a very long time, these are new positions. So they're just getting acquainted with the situation and so on. So they're getting there. But it will take some time. So that's A. B. The Israeli regime does not have the ability to create chaos in Iran. We have a constitution. We have checks and balances. During the Iran-Iraq war, when Saddam Hussein invaded Iran, and the West supported Saddam, and so did the Soviet bloc as well. We were all alone back then in the 1980s. And the West gave him chemical weapons, as you know. I survived 2 of those chemical attacks, both mustard gas and um, nerve gas. And the Germans, in particular, ironically, were the ones who had the most to do with chemical warfare and supporting Saddam to gas Iranians and his own people. Back then, they took out our president. Back then, we had a prime minister, and they they voted for a new constitution, and they removed the prime minister and made it the first vice president. So they took out the president, the prime minister, the head of the judiciary, government ministers, many MPs, terrorist groups. And those terrorist groups, by the way, are all based in the West. The MEK, the Mujahideen Khal, which murdered many thousands of Iranians and were foot soldiers for Saddam Hussein and murdered senior officials. They have offices throughout Europe and North America. They have bases throughout Europe. Imagine if a terror group in the United States that had killed thousands or tens of thousands of people, let's say, I think they killed 17,000 people, who killed 17,000 Americans. And of course, the population of the United States is greater. So let's say 50,000 Americans. And and they had offices in Iran. How would the American public respond? So back then, these terrorists took out many of our leaders, but nothing happened. After the war, Imam Khomeini passed away. We had a new leader in one day. We have a constitution. There's nothing that the Israeli regime can do to bring down the Islamic Republic of Iran. We may have setbacks, but we will quickly regroup. And I think it's amazing how quickly the Iranian armed forces regrouped. And within hours, they started hitting back at the regime. And within hours, the air defenses began to operate effectively. And by the way, a lot of the information coming out from the Israeli regime side is disinformation and misinformation. A lot of these clips, they are AI made. A lot of them are old clips. A lot of them are not real. Some of them, they bomb decoys, and the Israelis publish them. But when you bomb the real thing, you have secondary explosions. But there are no secondary explosions. So they think that they're blowing up missile launchers, but they're too foolish. Even those Israeli soldiers who publish them are not even educated enough in military affairs to know that what they're publishing is a decoy. So the radar that they've hit, the decoys, or a lot of them are just they're not the real thing. So again, because the media is in the hands of the West, because the internet, they control social media, so obviously they have the upper hand. But the tide is turning very rapidly. So Iran is warming up, but I don't believe that the Israeli regime has that capability at all. I think it's going to be the other way around, Sabrina. Netanyahu, I think, is going to pay the ultimate price. This is going to be his downfall. He will lose. Iran is determined to defeat Netanyahu because the Israeli regime in the United States and the West, which supports it, it's amazing that the French, the British, the Germans, all of them are supporting this unprovoked attack. They're supporting the attack on nuclear sites, which could lead to, contamination and radioactive contamination that could kill people. But they don't care. They support this ethno-supremacist regime. So the way I see it is that the Iranians are gradually getting there. The armed forces, they've regrouped and they're getting stronger. And the Israeli regime is now on the back foot. They are sending messages to Iran, the United States, through different means. The French president called. Why would he do that? The Emir of Qatar called. Why would he do that? It's clear. The United States is sending messages to Iran that we had nothing to do with this, and the Iranians have said, say it publicly if that's the case. And by the way, the Iranians are prepared for an American direct involvement, and that would, Sabrina, be catastrophic for the United States and the world.
Yeah, I'm here to tell you, most people that I've heard from said they do not want to go die for Israel. They do not think that Americans should be involved in this. One of them being Colonel Douglas Macgregor. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, he's made a number of statements on social media and on podcasts alike, making it very clear that Americans should not get involved with this at all. I think he's a conservative, but he's 100% against American involvement. And he brought up something really interesting. I want to read you something that Colonel Douglas Macgregor said, because this brings up the issue of oil. Colonel Douglas Macgregor said, one Israeli strike on Karg Island, where 90% of Iran's oil exports flow, or Bandar Abbas terminals, and Iran closes the Strait of Hormuz, that's 20% of global oil supply. This is the question a friend of the show, Roger Meadows, brought up about the oil. I don't think that people who are cheering this on just understand how catastrophic that could be for all of us, for the entire world. If you're complaining about gas prices now, just imagine how high gas prices would be if that were to happen. Also, if this were to happen, then this whole belief of Iran needs to go. We want the resources. This is really what this is really about. The United States government doesn't care about the Saudis. They don't care about people in the UAE. They don't care about those in Jordan. Honestly, to be honest with you, I don't think they really care about the Israelis either. They care about the resources in that region. And I've said this for years. We needed to stop having so much dependence on oil, and we needed to move towards other means of energy and resources in this country, in the world. But that's really what it's about. But the oil, Professor Marandi, if that attack were to happen, we're all screwed.
It's worse than that, Sabrina. because not only is it the oil that goes from the Persian Gulf, but a lot of the Saudi oil goes through the Red Sea. They have a pipeline instead of using the Persian Gulf, but that will be gone. And the same is true with the Emirates. And then Iraqi oil, that will end. And so will Azerbaijan oil. Iran will make sure that the United States pays the ultimate price. And it will not just be about people dying for this ethno-supremacist regime. It will be an end to the global economy as we know it. So people will be riding horses if they don't have to kill them for food. It will be a very different world. It won't be 1929 and the 1930s. It'll be something, I think, significantly worse. So that is the worst case scenario. But Iran is prepared for it. If anyone looks at the map of the Persian Gulf, Iran owns one side of the Persian Gulf. That's why it's called the Persian Gulf. And all those tiny Arab dictatorships, family dictatorships on the other side, they're glass palaces and they're hosting American bases. If the Americans get involved, the Iranians will consider all these regimes to be complicit. It's like Canada hosting bases from some third party, and then that third party attacking the United States. Canada will be seen as working with the enemy, or Mexico, whoever. So these regimes have to be very careful about what the United States intentions of Trump, because Trump is not a normal person. He flip flops, he changes. He's I think easily influenced, and of course he has the neocons and the Zionists surrounding him, and they don't care for Americans. They don't care for anything but themselves. So, someone once said, I think it was your what's her name? She just gave out a clip saying that warning against nuclear war. Sorry, I'm so tired.
No worries.
Yeah, she gave out that clip of warning about nuclear conflict and saying that maybe these people who are promoting it, Tulsi Gabbard, maybe these people, they think that, well, if the world is destroyed and the global economy is destroyed, at least they will be taken care of, and who cares about everyone else? But if the U.S. economy collapses and you have gasoline at, I don't know, $25 a gallon, I think a lot of Americans will be searching for these people, trying to find them, because they've destroyed their lives.
I agree with that 100%. This is the warning we've tried to give people now, not too long after October 7th. I know you and many others were warning people that Israel needs to be held accountable. Otherwise, this could lead to a possible war with Iran, not because Iran wanted that, but because Benjamin Netanyahu made it very clear, the Greater Israel Project, right? And he said that Iran was the curse. They didn't want Iran there. So it's very clear like what they want to do. They want to expand. This isn't just Gaza or the West Bank, right? So people did not take, I think, that warning to task. I feel like people just thought, well, this will eventually end when Donald Trump is elected. And I didn't believe, I think people don't understand. It doesn't matter if Donald Trump won or Kamala Harris won. I think we would still be at this point that we're at today. I really do, because both parties support Israel. So I don't, if Kamala would have won, I also still think that Israel would have attacked Iran. Actually, it could have been even harsher because Benjamin Netanyahu has less respect for Kamala Harris than he did for Donald Trump. So these are things to think about. But people are starting to ask the question, who is going to come to help Iran? And that brings up Yemen. People are asking about Russia and China. If this continues to escalate, do you foresee Yemen possibly, striking Israel again or more? Or do you see Russia and China getting involved in any way?
Well, Sabrina, in the 1980s, when Saddam Hussein invaded Iran and he had the support of the West and the Eastern Bloc, both blocs, Iran was all alone. No one was supporting Iran, and we we had difficulty, as I maybe have said before. We had problems importing gas masks because the West tried to block us from purchasing them. So I remember my own gas mask was North Korean. So the North Koreans were really the bad guys. They provided us with gas masks, and the West tried to prevent us from, and the Soviet Union at the time tried to prevent us from having gas masks, and they were providing Saddam Hussein with the chemical weapons to use against us. So that's how sinister these people were. We were a country under siege. We were all alone, and the revolution had just happened. The institutions were just emerging. The state wasn't, it's just it was a new government, a new political establishment. The armed forces were not prepared, but we overcame, and we defeated Saddam Hussein's aggression on our own. He failed to take anything from Iran, and ultimately he went bankrupt, and that's why he invaded Kuwait. And we know the rest of the story. So Iran is fiercely independent, and it is more than prepared to defend itself. And if the Americans strike, the Iranian underground assets, missile and drone bases that could target American targets across the region are far greater than what Iran has prepared for the Israeli regime, because the Persian Gulf is right next door. You don't need these long-range drones and long-range missiles. Very short-range drones and missiles can take out everything on the other side of the Persian Gulf very quickly and easily. And all these bases are underground, because ever since the United States invaded Afghanistan and then Iraq and surrounded Iran effectively in 2003, the Iranians were preparing themselves for a potential American invasion. And so they started building all their key assets underground. That's why the Israelis have not been able to destroy any of Iran's missile or drone bases, because they're deep underground. That's why they cannot destroy the nuclear program. They can destroy a few buildings on the land. They're not important. The nuclear program is all underground, and factories, all key. Increasingly over the years, the Iranians put key assets deep underground.
So they've been preparing.
Because that's the only way they could protect them in case of war with the United States. So is it better now?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the only way that the Iranians could defeat they could protect themselves against a more powerful adversary. But since then, the Iranians have been building sophisticated drones and sophisticated missiles, and now we're seeing them in action, and how the Iranians are outmatching the Israelis. The Israelis, increasingly, we're seeing their air force being less effective, and the missiles that they fire at Iran have small warheads. You see what the Iranian missile warheads do in Israel. And by the way, this is what you said that I wanted to correct. We haven't used a single hypersonic missile yet. Those missiles that you've seen that hammer the Israeli regime hard, those are not hypersonic missiles. And most of the missiles that the Iranians are using right now are older generation. They're using some newer missiles, but mostly older missiles, because they've had them for 25, 30 years. They want to get rid of them. So the hypersonic missiles have yet to be used. And Iran has said that they have a lot that they have not revealed up to now. So I think that in the days ahead, things are going to get bad. And my advice to these Zionists is to leave, go back home, go to the United States, go back to New Jersey or the Bronx or wherever it is in the United States that you're from, or back to Eastern Europe or to Russia or to Germany. Go back home and live safe lives. And those Jewish Palestinians, they can stay put. They're indigenous. It's their territory too. But for the bulk of them, they can go back to the Arab countries or the African countries that they came from. But that's the way to escape this. But Iran is not going to relent. Iran will not allow the Israeli regime or the Americans to gain anything through this aggression. Iran is determined to make them regret this. And that is why I think we're nearing the end. I'm guessing we're nearing the end of Netanyahu's reign of terror. Of course, the removal of Netanyahu doesn't change anything about the Israeli regime. It's like Nazi Germany without Hitler. No,
Right.
not acceptable. It's like ISIS without Abu Bakr Baghdadi, or it's like Al Qaeda with Jolani changing his name to Sharat. Doesn't work. This is a monstrous regime, and the only acceptable solution ultimately will be the end of ethno-supremacism, the end of human hierarchy in Palestine. And until that happens, there really won't be peace. A two-state solution is dead. We all know that. They've colonized the West Bank way too far, and with too many mad, crazy fanatics for that to happen. But in any case, the Iranians are determined to see this through. And the Israelis have made a catastrophic mistake by carrying out this surprise attack. Yes, they killed some people, they destroyed some equipment, but they're the aggressor. And despite the Western media trying to glorify them and try to show how sophisticated they are and try to demonize Iran, the world knows that they're the aggressor. And that gives Iran the upper hand. And ordinary Iranians see them as an aggressor. So that is united Iranians. This is not going to end well for the regime. And as we move forward, it's going to get tougher for them. The Americans have a choice. Either they stay out of this, well, they're still very much a part of it. But if the Americans get directly involved, we know what's going to happen. Americans should buy horses and donkeys. And the world is going to change.
Yeah.
But the smart thing to do would be for the Americans to get out of it and to start putting pressure on the Israeli regime to end this. But the only way it's going to end is with certain conditions being met. Certain conditions will have to be met.
Yeah, so I hope everybody heard that, because that's a number of things. Some of the images and some of the reporting on X, people are pointing out like it's not 100% correct, but I hope everybody heard that. Apparently those aren't the hypersonic missiles. And I've already seen, you guys have seen, if you're on social media, the damage that the missiles that have been used has done. So just imagine if they were to use the hypersonic missiles. I mean, Israel, again, we have to bring this up. You know, Israel decided to attack Iran. Like, Iran was basically just chilling. And crazy Benjamin Netanyahu and his cabinet decided, no, let's go ahead. This is our chance to pull the US into a war with Iran. And there's no turning back now. Like, this was their choice. This was their decision. And I want to get your opinion about the aggressor, because I am noticing, of course, on Western media and also on social media, the same people, the same commentators that said this all started on October 7th when Hamas killed the Israeli people, and they're still spreading the beheaded baby lie. Those same commentators are now saying, well, Israel struck Iran, but they had no choice. Now, all of a sudden, it's okay. It's okay because it's Israel. And this is just a big part of like the Western propaganda. But I have to tell you, Professor Marandi, I'm surprised at the number of Americans that are not falling for it, because I said, now that it changed from Gaza to Iran. I said, I don't think everybody's going to come over to, the side of Iran, because there's a lot of propaganda in this country about Iran. But I'm shocked at the number of people that said, no, no, no. Israel started this. Donald Trump was supposed to meet with them on Sunday. And it's just, I'm curious to get your perspective about that. Like, these people have no shame.
No, they don't have any shame. And Western media, legacy media, has no shame. Netanyahu has been lying about the Iranian nuclear program for almost 4 decades. And Larry Johnson, a mutual friend of ours, I said 3 decades, and he corrected me and said it's longer than that. And for all these decades, he's been saying Iran is weeks away, months away, a couple of years away from a nuclear weapon. Western media knows this. Western journalists know this. This is all over the internet, but they won't say it. They will just say, yes, Iran is on the verge of making a bomb or something like that. The buildings, by the way, that the Israeli regime has bombed, which, as I said, are not really that important. The important installations are all deep underground. But all of those buildings, they are buildings that inspectors from the International Atomic Energy Agency regularly visit. There's never been any evidence from any of the technical experts from this organization that Iran is building a nuclear weapon. And we should make a clear distinction between the board of governors and the analysts and the experts. The board of governors is a political entity. They're representative of governments. And the International Atomic Energy Agency, like all international bodies, is dominated by the West because they were all created after the Second World War. So their statements on Iran are based upon the demands of Washington, the needs of Washington. If you go to WikiLeaks, the previous head of the International Atomic Energy Agency, when he wanted to get elected, he was Japanese, passed away a few years ago. He told Americans, vote for me, back me, and I'll support you on all key issues. It's in WikiLeaks. Your viewers can look them up right now and put them up on in the chat for people to see. And of course, the current head is the documents that Iran has been able to take, Iranian intelligence, the huge amount of documents that they've been able to take from the Israeli regime. They clearly show that the current head of this body is cooperating fully with this regime, a regime that has nuclear weapons by them. So Iran, there's no indication that Iran is developing nuclear weapons. In fact, the issues that have been brought forward again, that have been rehashed, are all old issues that were being resolved 3 years ago. When the United States was thinking about having a nuclear deal, the issues become resolved. Whenever they want to escalate again, those resolved issues become a problem again. That's how the United States works. They use things as leverage. The U.S. government has no sense of morality, no standards, acceptable standards. Today I weaponize something against you. Tomorrow I decide not to. The day after tomorrow I weaponize it again against you. That's how the Board of Governors at the International Atomic Energy Agency works. But there's absolutely no evidence that Iran has moved towards developing a nuclear weapon. And in fact, Trump is if anything, Trump is the person who's pushed Iran closer to a nuclear weapon than anyone else, because he tore up the nuclear agreement, created maximum pressure, and that ultimately pushed Iran towards developing its nuclear program, enriching uranium at 60% for leverage. And now they threaten Iran with strikes, and Iran says, if we feel threatened, then we will change our nuclear doctrine. So ultimately, the person who has contributed more than anyone else to push Iran towards nuclear weapons is Trump. But so far, Iran has not done that, and Iran does not want nuclear weapons for 2 reasons. One is that during the Iran-Iraq War, Iran sees it as immoral. And during the Iran-Iraq War, when Saddam Hussein was using these Western chemical weapons, leaders went to the Ayatollah Khomeini, Imam Khomeini, and said, we need to make chemical weapons to respond. And he said, no, they're immoral. And he didn't allow them to develop. This is very well documented. And the current leader, from the very beginning, he said no to nuclear weapons. Iran is the United States. The United States itself admits that Iran is not developing nuclear weapons. It says after 2003, it hasn't been doing so.
So then, what does
Iran, even before 2003, hasn't been doing so. But at least the United States government itself. Yeah, you're saying.
Oh, so then what does Iran want? Because I'll tell you, I've been hearing since I was a kid that Iran
Can you hear me?
was developing nuclear weapons. I'm just telling you guys for those who are younger and may not be aware of that. I've heard this for years. I haven't seen any proof. But what exactly does Iran? Because here's the thing. If I feel like this, if other countries around me are going to have nuclear weapons, they need to disarm, right? Like, I don't feel like any country should have nuclear weapons, but I would also feel very vulnerable if the countries around me have them, but I'm told I'm not allowed to have one and leave myself open for, Israel to just try to come in and slaughter the people and take over like they did in Syria, right? So what exactly does Iran want?
Well, first and foremost, Iran wants to remain a sovereign nation. That was what the revolution was all about. It was about dignity, sovereignty, having decisions made in Tehran, and having an independent foreign policy. Under the Shah, Iran sent its uh, fighter jets to Vietnam for the United States to use to bomb Vietnam, North Vietnam. Under the Shah, Iran supplied South Africa, apartheid South Africa, with 90% of its oil. Under the Shah, Iran had relations with Israel and purchased weapons made by the Israelis. And when the revolution happened, immediately Iran cut off ties with apartheid South Africa and the Israeli regime and began funding uh, Southern African liberation movements, including the ANC military wing and the political wing. And the Iranians began to support the Palestinian cause. So Iran wants an end to ethno-supremacism in West Asia. And Iran obviously wants an end to this Holocaust. And Iran will not allow, Sabrina, Iran and the axis of resistance will not allow the Israeli regime and the Americans and the Europeans to get away with the extermination of the Palestinian people. That will not happen.
I understand that. It was really interesting to me that Benjamin Netanyahu had the nerve to mention the Bible after he struck Iran. It's really interesting to me because I have very, very, very serious issues with the way that people are purposefully Zionism and in particular Christian Zionism is purposefully misinterpreting passages in the Bible to make the excuse for a Zionist supremacist state like Israel. And it was just appalling to me that he stood there and gave the speech and said, oh, they're coming after us. They're coming after civilians, as if they haven't been doing that for decades, not just after October 7th, but for decades, what they did to the Palestinian people. It was very disgusting to see him stand there and say that. And he said that from a bunker. He said that after leaving people in Israel and fleeing to Greece to try to run and hide. I feel like if the people in Israel are going to have to push back against Benjamin Netanyahu, or nothing is going to change for them. And we've seen this happen with other countries, right? I saw Sri Lanka a couple years ago. They pushed their prime minister out and said, "You're not treating the people well. You got to get out of here." And he got on a plane and left, right? So as long as they continue to go along with this project, because this is the part, Professor Marandi, when I hear people say, we have to have security in Israel, we have to be safe, we need a place that we can be safe, right? I feel like you wouldn't have the need for the security and the safety if you did not attack and destroy and pillage other groups, indigenous groups in that region. You wouldn't have to worry about security and safety. So the Likud party took things a step further, but this issue with Zionism is ultimately what brought them here.
You know, when there was a conference in Iran a while back, and a number of people that you and I both know came to Iran and visited the country, and I encouraged them to go to synagogues. And I think first it was George Galloway who went to synagogue and did a report from there. And then Max went, I think, and I think he's doing a documentary or something on the synagogues now, or he did his he did some work and it will turn into a documentary. That's what I think he was planning. You have synagogues in Tehran, in Isfahan, and probably in other places. These are the two places that I know of. You have restaurants you have kosher restaurants anymore. The synagogues don't have any guards in front of them because there's no need for guards. No one has ever attacked a synagogue in Iran. And they actually, Jews in Iran have a slightly higher than average wealth than ordinary Iranians. They're somewhat wealthy, a wealthy group. And according to the Constitution, Jews in Iran must have a seat in parliament. That's the Constitution. It's not, they don't have to be popular. They don't have to have a popular candidate, let's say, who sweeps the, who becomes popular across the country. If the Jewish population chooses a person, that's going to be the Jewish MP. No matter how small their numbers are, whatever their numbers, they have a seat in parliament that is designated for them. So, and we're supposedly the anti-Semites. In fact, I would argue that Zionists are the most anti-Semite, even though Jews are not necessarily Semites. The Ashkenazi Jews are European. The Palestinians are really the Semites, whether it's the Palestinian Muslims or Christians or Jews. They're the Semites, not the Zionists who come from abroad. But in any case, let's pretend that they are. The most anti-Semite people are the Zionist Jews, who are basically telling the world that all the Jews, including those who are totally against them, they are us. Fortunately, we have lots of young Jews, especially, lots of Jews, but especially young Jews, who are standing up against them and telling the world that this is garbage, this is nonsense. So they're the ones who are trying to attribute this Holocaust to Jews. And so they're the enemy of Judaism. They're the enemies of Judaism. And Christian Zionists are the enemies of Christianity because they claim that Christ, who we all love, supports genocide. Christ would be an enemy of genocide. He would be utterly opposed and steadfast against genocide. But these people are trying to create an image of Christianity where Christ supports slaughtering kids, just like ISIS, just like Al Qaeda. The Americans, Western intelligence agencies, through the Saudis and the Qataris, and more recently Turkey, they created and promoted these extremist groups, these Salafi and Wahhabi extremists. They supported them. The first textbooks for the extremists in Afghanistan were published in the United States at the University of Nebraska, Omaha. The school textbooks they would publish them there, take them to Afghanistan and Pakistan, where the refugees were, and have the kids read them. And they were takfiri books, make them hate the Russians, right? So the Americans, they began this process of this is not Islam. This is their Islam. This is American Islam. This is British intelligence Islam. ISIS, Al Qaeda, what we have in Syria, all these terrorist groups beheading people. It's their Islam. And then they attribute it to us. Just like Zionism. So Zionism, whether Christian or Jewish, or this extremist takfiri ideology that the West promotes and uses in Syria and Libya and Afghanistan and Iraq and elsewhere, or in Russia or in Central Asia, these are all creations of that have of sinister people who have nothing to do with Islam, who have nothing to do with Judaism, and who have nothing to do with Christianity.
Well, one more for you, Professor Marandi. Where does Iran go from here? And also, there was an interview of you on Sky News. Did you find that full interview? Because I saw a clip on X, but did they delete that interview?
I've when I did the interview, because I'm so overwhelmed, and I'd like to apologize because a lot of people contact me, and I just can't answer because I'm really exhausted, and I don't have the time to answer and to do all these different interviews. And I apologize to all of them. I know they're all excellent people and they're all trying to do good, but I just can't do anymore. Physically, and I feel very sometimes I feel terrible because like I do an interview with you and I do with interviews with others, and I feel like I'm saying the same thing over and over and over again. And it makes I don't it doesn't give me a good feeling. So I'm exhausted, and so I some people are contacting me constantly, and they probably think I'm being arrogant or I'm ignoring them, but I just can't. So I'm terribly I'm terribly exhausted.
No, I'm
But
sure I knew everybody was going to reach out to you. I figured.
so I just tweeted that, look, I was on Sky News. If I know how you can find it, that you can go to the Sky News or any media outlet to their um, YouTube or whatever, and then you find that piece and you cut it and you take it out. And I don't have the patience for that, and I'm too tired. So I just said, look, does anyone have it? And a lot of people uh, were kind enough to find it and to publish it, and I retweeted some of them, and then some of them showed or tweeted back to me that these people found it. So they are. I don't know if the complete interview is still online, but I did tweet or retweet. I didn't tweet, but I retweeted the tweets of others who went and found parts of it or all of it. It was an interesting interview, and I think it does reveal how horrible Western media is, and how complicit they are in the Holocaust. And it just tells us, it just shows to us how human beings haven't changed, and that I mean, there are many great people, and we've seen them in the United States, in Europe, in our country. Our country is, I think, the pride of the world. They're the ones who are supporting the Palestinians. They've been paying a price for 40 some years, and that's why we're being attacked now. Um, it's good against evil here, but there's so many people. But they're on the other hand, they're terrible people too, and these awful people, they will do anything in the name of freedom, democracy, nationalism, their race, or whatever. In the past, many thought that the era of genocide and the era of fascism was over, and this is like the human being has advanced. No, it hasn't. We still have the same issues. Some stand on the right side, some stand on the wrong side. But Western elites, Western um, journalists from mainstream media, they are overwhelmingly complicit in genocide, and their narrative building, whether it's on Iran or whether it's on Palestine or whether it's on Lebanon or Yemen, has always been to support the forces of genocide. And I'm sure there are some people, decent people among them, but overwhelmingly that's how it is.
100%. What do you think happens from here? Is just going to be a back and forth between Israel and Iran with attacks?
I don't know how long this will take, but I know that the Iranians are determined to make the Israeli regime feel
Oh, I think,
defeated. And if can you hear me?
yeah, I think you were saying feel defeated. Yeah.
Yeah, the Iranians are determined to make the Israeli regime feel defeated, and they will. And if the Americans get involved, God save the world, because it will be a catastrophe for the entire world.
Mm. Professor Marandi, thank you so much for your time. I know you're super busy, so I appreciate you making time for me.
I'm always, whenever you tell me, I'll be on your show.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye for now.
All right. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to do a quick pivot. I have three news stories that I want to discuss as well. So, what you are going to see is Eric is going to pop on for just a
Pop
second,
on.
hop off of Zoom, and jump onto StreamYard. We're using two different systems here because Professor Marandi is in Iran. So, Eric, let me know when you're ready. I think you're good
All
on.
right, I'm in.
Great. All right. I'm going to hop off Zoom and hop on StreamYard and we'll finish the show.
All right, here we go. Yeah, so I thought that was a great interview. You can let us know in the chat what you think. And yeah, we had to go through a few hoops just to just for the technical reasons. It's hard to do StreamYard into Iran, but we can do Zoom. And yeah, I thought it went well, and I'm always glad just that the when the tech works out well. We can check out a few of the super chats. Waiting for Sabby to make the transition, the connection. Thanks for the super chat. The man who says Israel equals rising lion and Israel equals rising and lying, and Iran is heart of a lion. All right. Hey, there you are.
I am here.
So I thought that went really well.
I thought so too. Yeah, for people who don't know, so it's hard to use StreamYard in Iran, and that's the streaming service that I use. So usually when I would interview Professor Marandi, I would record the interview and then upload it as a premiere. And this time Eric and I thought, like, let's try to do it live. So there's just like different technical things that you have to do, which Eric handled because I couldn't figure it out.
All right, we done did it. All right, you can carry on.
Okie dokie. All right, guys, we have three more news stories I want to discuss on the show. Today's theme is no turning back. And I think you'll see that with these other stories as well. Let's go ahead and share that thumbnail so you can see what else we are going to discuss. It's a crazy time happening right now, particularly in the world, but also in the United States. So we are also discussing today. We just talked to Professor Marandi about Iran shocks Israel. We just talked about that. We're also going to discuss, this is a crazy story. Minnesota lawmakers shot. It was just reported that one of them has died. We're going to get into that story in the manhunt that's happening in Minnesota to look for that suspect, to find that suspect, right? We're also discussing Al Sharpton has done it again, folks. Al Sharpton has decided to intervene in an election. We're going to get into all of that and explain to you what he's doing now, in particular in New York. And if you are a New Yorker and you support Zoran Mondami, you are not going to be happy about this one. Eric, if we can just put the ether pad back on or type V and see if we can get back to the links. Thank you. We're also discussing, this is wild. This is wild. CNN host, that is Scott Jennings there on the right in the green square. And he is apparently trapped in Israel. He decided to go there and he is stuck there with Caitlyn Jenner, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, he is. We're going to get into all of that and what happens when people tend to try to make this sacrifice for the state of Israel. So let's get to some of these chats first, ladies and gentlemen. Shout out to Kimi for being a member for 8 months. Says, didn't think I'd ever ask this. LOL. Has Professor Marandi seen Z Squirrels reporting on Israel's plans? They shared them via Twitter. Solidarity. I think he has. I think he's familiar with the Z Squirrel account. I think I've talked to him about that squirrel before. The shout out to Mohammad for the super sticker. Thank you. Skylar the Radar says one state solution with Palestinians having the right of return. With any luck, they'll eventually have the chance to rename the land back to what it should have been, Palestine. I hear you, Skylar. Thank you, Chris. Love you, Sabs. Israel has big problems like China, Russia, and Iran, especially if we don't help them. Say no to the free money for them and they get what they pay for. Thank you, Empire. Only a supremacist ideology allows a clear conscience while targeting children. And the only language supremacists understand is the language of uncompromising extreme violence. Feel you there. Feel you there. Thank you. Do all things with love in such high demand because the number one goodwill ambassador. Thank you. And we'll go to some of the rants on Rumble, the Rumble rants. Thank you. Thank you for the super chat, or the Rumble rant, excuse me. Sedum. Hey, Sabby, have you seen the movie Elysium? I have not yet. People keep telling me to watch that one. The rich elite live on a space station far away. But what most people don't know is the government here is building cities underground, unreachable. Yeah, I know. That's another one that's on my list, guys. Thank you for the tip on Rockfin Dave. Thank you, Sabby and Eric. And thank you for the tip, Roger. If you Google, you will find U.S. munition stockpile is running low. Gee, how did that happen? Also, that we need to depend on China for certain minerals to make those weapons, a country we started a trade war with. Now we will be running low on gas. While on one end, some branches of the military met their target, studies have shown retention rate is up. Most take dishonorable discharge after a year. Yes, sir. All righty. If you have not done so, smash that like button, fan. And if you're new, don't forget to like, sub, and share. Just like a Care Bear. We're moving on to this crazy story in Minnesota. 2 lawmakers in Minnesota were shot. It was reported later yesterday that one of them did die. Let's get into this story. This is crazy. The suspect, from what I understand at this point, is still at large. Crazy things happening in Minnesota, folks. Let's get into that breaking news. We are in for wild times.
Good Saturday morning. We are still covering breaking news right now at this time. What we know so far is this. Police are on the scene of 2 separate shootings in the Twin Cities. We have confirmed that 2 state lawmakers have been shot, along with one of the spouses of those lawmakers. Our sources confirm the one state senator was shot is State Representative Melissa Hortman. She is pictured here. She was Speaker of the House for many years in the state legislature. The other person that we've confirmed has been shot is State Senator John Hoffman and his wife. He is of Champlin. And just within the last half hour, Governor Walz activated the State Emergency Operations Center. He says local law enforcement in Champlin and Brooklyn Park have the full resources of the state of Minnesota behind them. He went on to say that they are monitoring the situation closely and they will share more information soon. I know we have a press conference coming up in about 23 minutes. It's going to be in Blaine from the Champlin PD. We will learn more information there. Right now, we know of 2 active scenes. One is in Champlin. The other one is in Brooklyn Park.
So let's pause here for a second. So as you can see, these 2 areas, again, I haven't been to Minnesota, but I know some of you are from in that area. These 2 locations, it's not like they were right next to each other, right? So obviously this is something that was planned, I would say probably well in advance to be able to get from one of these locations to the other one, but it's not like they were right next to each other.
Live in this area. You got this emergency alert on your phone about 5:15 this morning that said Brooklyn Park Police issued a shelter-in-place order for a 3-mile radius of Edinburgh Golf Course for an emergent event. Police said that they were looking for a suspect in multiple targeted shootings who is armed and dangerous. It's unclear if this is still active. We haven't heard otherwise, though. Suspect is a white male, brown hair, wearing black body armor over blue shirt and blue pants, and may misrepresent himself as law enforcement. Do not approach, call 911. We have confirmed that that person did misrepresent themselves as law enforcement and did 2 separate shooting incidences.
That's the crazy, crazy part that they were reporting that the suspect misrepresented himself as a police officer. So again, this is something that was thought out well in advance. And we'll get into why we believe they chose to target these two particular people in just a second.
Sammy Selena is live on scene near Edinburgh Golf Course right now. Sammy, last time we talked to you, we were just breaking the news that 2 state lawmakers were shot. What can you tell us now?
Hey, Chris. I mean, the scene here in front of the Brooklyn Park Police Department is pretty much the same as 30 minutes ago. But when we arrived to this scene, we saw that there were multiple officers that were every block that you could see, you could find that there were police officers. When folks were leaving the neighborhood, they found that they were going to check each car that was leaving the neighborhood. Police officers were asking people to go through their trunks to just make sure that there were no suspects in the car, that sort of thing. Of course, we're learning more details, but as so far as we know, that emergency alert has not been lifted. So police, they are continuing to ask people to stay away from the area, to stay in their homes, to be safe. A few minutes ago, we saw police still gearing up in tactical gear. Right now, here at the police department, it's quiet. That's what we know right now. Of course, we're learning more details. We hope to learn more details, I should say, when that press conference happens in Blaine. We'll take it back to you.
Okay, so let's get into some of the details here about the suspect, because it didn't take them long to figure out who this was. And you'll find a connection here about those two lawmakers. Now, there's a couple of things that are going around. Some people feel that this had something to do with their positions on deportations. I think it was reported earlier this morning that one of the lawmakers, I guess, had one of the No Kings protest flyers like on their car. There's different things that have been said. But one of the things about the suspect that I think you may find interesting, according to his LinkedIn post, he said that he did work in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. And I found that particularly interesting. There's a post, I'll see if I can find it here. There's a post where he posted, I guess he was looking for a job at that time back in the US, that he did work in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and that he was looking for work in the United States again. So him returning back. I just thought that was interesting. I'll show that to you in just a second, but they bring more information here on NBC News. Check this out.
Now we do have confirmation of who the person that police are looking for in connection with the shooting of these state lawmakers. And we're now able to confirm that police are looking for Vance Bolter, born in 1967 in the state of Minnesota. Maggie Vespa, you have more on this.
Yeah, Jose, this just into NBC News, according to 3 people familiar with the investigation. Vance Bolter, a 57-year-old man from Minnesota, is the person authorities are now looking for in connection with these two, what they're calling politically motivated, politically targeted shootings in the Minneapolis area earlier this morning. And that name, Vance Bolter, spelling Boelter. Again, that's according to 3 people familiar. And remember, this is the guy who they say showed up at these 2 homes. And you're seeing Senator Hoffman's home from earlier this morning with those bullet holes in the front door, that chilling video from our affiliate on the ground. This is the guy who they say showed up at these 2 homes starting around 3:30 this morning. Dressed as a police officer, wearing that blue police officer shirt, that tactical vest, that utility belt with a dark colored SUV. It looked like one a police officer might be driving, with lights and sirens on the top. In other words, authorities saying completely impersonating an officer of the law, knocking on their door early in the morning of these 2 Democratic lawmakers in the state of Minnesota. And they say targeting both of them, ambushing them with gunfire, shooting each lawmaker, including Senator Hoffman, and Melissa Hortman, Representative Hortman and her husband Mark, shooting each lawmaker and their spouses. Representative Hortman and her husband both passing away, killed during this shooting. Senator Hoffman and his wife both taken to a local hospital for surgery. Authorities.
Pause there for a second. So they believe that this was politically motivated. Again, Democrats are probably going to try to see this as a win, right? They're going to try to say, oh, this was a crazy Trump supporter and he came out here trying to kill politicians. And they will, believe it or not, they will use that as like a win to help the party. But I want you to see, we'll come back to this because I found that a screenshot that I had. 1 second. Let me just share my screen. I want to show you that post from him because I want people to see this. Let me just zoom in here a little bit so you can see it a little bit better. So, and this was shared on Blue Sky. Can everybody see? Okay. It was shared on Blue Sky by Jacqueline Sweet. Suspected Minnesota shooter Vance Bolter posted a month ago on LinkedIn that he was looking for work in the US after being in the DRC. So listen to this, guys. So this is his profile on LinkedIn. Apparently at one point he was CEO of a group called Red Lion Group. I couldn't access the website for that, so I don't even know if that website even exists anymore. But he says, hi, everyone. I'm looking to get back into the US food industry, and I'm pretty open to positions. Other leadership positions outside of the food industry I'm willing to hear about as well. I have been doing projects in the Democratic Republic of the Congo in Central Africa the last 3 years with Red Lion Group. If you hear of any opportunities or just want to catch up, please send me a message. And then he posted here the type of roles that he was looking for: director of operations, vice president, general manager, president roles, etc. And then he said, thanks and hope you've been well. So what was interesting about this, folks, is that I thought to myself, okay, was in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. We've talked about the Congo before multiple times on the show, a lot of exploitation that's happening there. And I just thought to myself, like, if he was working in the food industry in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, what exactly was he like? What was this Red Lion Group? Because when I clicked on what was the website, that link doesn't even work anymore. And what exactly were they doing like in the Congo? There's a lot of poverty. There's exploitation in the Congo. You have children working in those mines, the cobalt mines, so that we can have the phones that we have and all this stuff. There's a lot of stuff going on there in the Congo, right? So what exactly was this guy doing? I don't know. So there's a little bit more information. I thought you'd find that interesting.
Officials hopeful that they'll pull through. They have so far survived. But this is a major update now confirmed by 3 people familiar with the investigation to NBC News that Vance Bolter, they say, is the suspected shooter who they believe ditched that SUV, took off on foot, and is now at large in the suburban Minneapolis area with this massive, you can see that SUV there being towed away, with this massive manhunt underway. Jose.
Let's look at that, Maggie, because that's the one that the suspect was utilizing. Boy, yeah. You see that? The lights on the top. Look at that. And in the plate, you see the plate right in the front. It says police.
Right.
I mean,
and again,
go ahead.
We've talked about,
So I wanted you guys to see that because the license plate on the front said police. So I don't know how he was able to pull this off. I honestly thought, like, when I see people impersonate a police officer, that's only something that happens in the movies. I've not heard of people doing this in real life. Like, how did they get away with, like, if you watch the movie The Town, how did they get away with, stealing these cop uniforms, and you get these fake license plates and all that type of stuff? But that's apparently what he was able to do. Now, I am hearing people say, thank you so much for this, Tabitha. The suspect worked for Governor Walz. He's a Democrat. His wife also worked for the state in some capacity. He is blue MAGA, not MAGA. Very, very interesting. Very interesting. Let's continue here a little bit more.
You and I were just talking. Keep in mind, it was pitch black. It was before dawn, 2:30 in the morning. And you point out, right, those lights on the top, just frankly, the shape, make, and model of that SUV.
Let's take a look at that, Maggie. Let's look at that together. Folks,
here it goes.
Watch this. Look at that. The back, there's some stripes there. You got the I think the tag in the front says police, the lights on the top, and then there are some lights inside that are actually still moving. Boy, that top and bottom of the front windshield. Look at that. I mean, this is a.
So if you don't know any better, guys, I mean, you would probably think, okay, yeah, it's a police vehicle, a police officer in, a different car. Because they do that. Remember, they drive regular cars too, not just always the police cars. You would probably assume, okay, yes, this is legitimately an officer of the law who is at my door.
Close to a police SUV as you can get, if it's not one, because it's just, how do you at 2 in the morning or 3 in the morning or 3 p.m. not think that this is a police vehicle? And I'm glad we're showing it again. Let's look at it together. There's some numbers on the top right of the back of the vehicle. No, just those stickers on it, as long as that, as well as that bumper in the front with those lights, top and bottom of the front windshield. Take a look at that. And it does say, what does it say? It says police.
Yeah. Yep. Right. No, that license plate says police. The shape, make, and model of it is something that authorities were very blunt. They said, look, this absolutely looked like, in other words, they just stopped short of saying this guy did a good job of making himself look like a law enforcement officer. The way he was dressed, the gear he was wearing, that vest, that belt, the car he was driving, the lights and sirens on top of it. There is no way, from Minnesota's governor to the other law enforcement officers who have spoken at these press conferences today, saying there is no way that these two Democratic lawmakers, again, hours before dawn, middle of the night, would have been able to tell that they weren't answering the door to a law enforcement officer. You see it going by again, Jose, with those lights still flashing.
Yeah. So he's been planning this for a while and he's probably gone by now. Like he's probably, if they didn't catch him already, you'll see a little bit more information here. I think this is his roommate coming in here. Listen to this.
We're going to go live now. We've got a reporter on scene there. It was Raya, I believe, but now it's Michelle. Anyway, let's go live. What have you learned on scene this afternoon?
Well, Julie Arena, I'm about to get to some pretty ominous details. I've been on scene for about 10 minutes. It's, again, ominous is the word that I can use to describe what I'm learning right now. But first, let me paint this scene for you right now. We're at Fremont and 48th. Again, North Minneapolis, a lot of media members here trying to gain some information. This is a home, as you can see. There has been a lot of damage here to the front yard. You can see the windows are busted. We see some big tire tracks here on the front yard, on the dirt. It is clear that something happened here, guys. And MPD was able to confirm with us that this was the address where they executed a search warrant. So that much we know from MPD, again, them saying they assisted in the search warrant, the search that was happening right here. And from speaking with a roommate, he doesn't want to be named, he doesn't want to go on camera, but I spoke with a roommate in the last 5 minutes. He tells me Vance Bolter lives here just a couple times a week. Again, we already know about his residence in Green Isle, but this is where he lives just a couple times a week for about 2 years is what this roommate says. And this is so that Mr. Bolter can have some of the odd jobs that this roommate was saying. Apparently, he has worked in positions where he brings bodies to the morgue. Apparently, Mr. Bolter would also take eyeballs out for research. Again, these are the words from one roommate that I spoke with.
I thought that part was interesting, that he would take out eyeballs for research. What type of research was he trying to do? Eric's also informed me too. You guys need to hear this, that Governor Walz apparently appointed him to a state board, but didn't, I guess, really know him as personally, right? So I don't know about this one, guys. I think this whole situation is just really strange. But the eyeball thing I thought was kind of, you guys need to hear that. I thought that was scary.
They also know him as a good guy. There seems to be a number of roommates who share this home with Mr. Bolter. And about noon or sometime in the afternoon is when that so-called big military truck tried to come to this home, or did come to this home. and try to execute that search. That roommate I spoke with says that truck rammed the doors right open. That truck apparently had a rod with a camera attached, presumably in their attempts to find their suspect, Mr. Vance Bolter. From as far as we know, he wasn't here. And the roommates tell us, what the roommate that I spoke with tells us, Mr. Bolter has not been here all morning since he left at about 6:30 a.m. Now, what got the roommates concerned initially, they had known about the incident over in Brooklyn Park that started this whole situation. But what got them initially concerned was Mr. Bolter usually has two cars, those police style cars, those former police cars that we are now so familiar with. But that is the cars that he normally drives around. One of the cars was in the back, and that roommate noticed the passenger side window was busted. Okay. And so one of the roommates, they started searching for Mr. Bolter. They know him as Vance. Noticed that Vance was not here at home, and so they texted him. So
let's pause. This is a weird story. This guy is 57 years old. 57 years old, had roommates at a house that he stayed there sometimes a couple of nights throughout the week. Then apparently have lived in another residence. This is really, really weird. Was using eyeballs. Some people mentioned, in the chat, like maybe scanning the retina or whatever for research. Just finished doing work in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and then comes back to the US looking for work in the food industry. All of this just sounds really weird. It makes you wonder, was this guy like undercover? Like, was he a part of the Alphabet Agency? Was he CIA? Was he something like that? Because this story to me just doesn't make any sense. Here's the other thing. They still haven't caught the guy. John is still out there. John's out there. I mean, there's no turning back from this, but John is probably long gone. Maybe John already left the country. We really don't know, but they have not found him. Didn't find him. How was he able to get his car to look like a police car? Where did he get the license plate from? Where did he get the uniform from? Obviously, the lawmakers, the people who opened the door, he looked enough like a police officer for them to trust that he was a police officer. So how did he get all that? I'm thinking he had help. I'm thinking this is not a one-man operation. I'm thinking somebody else did help him. I don't know, what kind of message he's trying to send, but I don't think he did this alone.
at that point, they did get a text back. Again, all according to that roommate I spoke with. Mr. Bolter apparently said, "I love you guys very much. I'm making some bad choices. I do not want to implicate you all. I may be gone for a while, and I may be dead." Guys, these are very, again, ominous. Those words, very ominous. And from that point on, these roommates, they contacted police. Again, I have not seen the text myself, and the words that I just read to you were me paraphrasing, or in fact, I actually wrote down verbatim what the roommate told me. And Julie, Rena, those were the words that one of the roommates I spoke with is paraphrasing, and the words that he remembers. Now, these are words, as you guys can imagine, these are words that you cannot shake off, right? Let me tell you once again some of the phrases that wrapped up that text. "I may be gone for a while, and I may be dead." Guys, back to you.
There you go. So he planned this out for quite some time, ladies and gentlemen. He knew what he was getting himself into here. Just an update again, like I said, on the lawmakers that were shot. Manhunt for suspect in political assassination rattles Minnesota. The police are still, again, looking for him. He's 57 years old in relation to killing of a state representative and shooting a state senator. A list in his car included, this is the interesting part, a list in his car included about 70 potential targets. 70 potential targets. Guys, John was planning this out for a while. So I wanted everyone to hear that part. It's not just about the lawmakers that he shot and killed in Minnesota. Apparently, he had a list of 70. And for me, like, I looked at this and I was like, yo, what is going on, fam? Right? And they still haven't found this guy. They have not found him. So it says they shared a photograph of him that they said was captured by a security camera in Minneapolis on Saturday. Not long after the overnight attacks, he was wearing a cowboy hat. Yeah, again, those who were killed, check this out. The attack shook leaders from both parties, and many condemned the killings, which took place on a day of national protests of President Trump's policies. That was another thing. This happened the same day as the No Kings protests took place. But the fact that this guy had a list of 70 names, nah, bruh. John been planning this for a while. And I would be surprised if he's still in the country. I would be surprised if he's still in the country at this point. But they haven't caught him. And I want to say something about this. It does give me like CIA vibes. It does. It really does. At the same time, look, you guys may have noticed how the type of violence that we've been experiencing in the US recently, right? Like, not just violence. We know the US is a violent country, but the type of violence, right? And I don't condone violence. And we say that on this show. We got to make sure we say that, because people will, y'all ain't coming after me saying, well, Sabby said go do. Sabby ain't say go do nothing. So I do condone violence. And I do want to say this. This is what some of us have been warning, that if things did not change, and I mean for the everyday working Joe Schmo, that people would start taking matters into their own hands. Look at everything that's been happening, right? Now, I know, like, if my grandma was alive, she would probably say, we're living in the end times. I've heard that since I was a kid. People have been saying that since, or even before I was a kid. I've heard it for years, people saying we're living in the end times. But I think it speaks to something about this particular country, where it just seems like, I said condone. I said that again. God damn. I am so sorry, Heather. I don't condone violence. Don't condone violence. Excuse me. I got to make sure. Make that clear. I do not condone violence. But I just think that it says something about this country. I mean, this goes back to like the mass school shootings and just mass shootings that we have in this country. We have more in this country than any other country. It just goes back to that like people taking matters into their own hands. Now, John, I don't know. I think John had some help, but we'll have to keep track of this story. But something tells me that he had some help. Very strange situation. Did work in the Congo and then comes back to this. Makes me wonder what happened in the Congo. Let's get to some of the comments here, ladies and gentlemen. The Slimy Show says they will blame Iran. Thank you, JJ. Sab, you early as hell today. Yes, because Iran is 9.5 hours ahead of us, I believe. Like, it's very different timing. Yeah, I went live with Professor Marandi. That's why I changed the time. Thank you, Dwayne. Hey, if Sabby's going to start this early, maybe we can do a 10-hour Zoom call in. Oh, man. Oh, my gosh. Joey Peltier, who's in Minnesota. The DFL Minnesota Democrats is owned by APAC and has invested in several private security companies to protect all of the extraction minerals projects. On top of that, Minnesota PD working with the IDF. Well. Thank you, Joey. Thank you so much for that. Pine said the suspect was last registered to vote in like 2004 as a Republican. Looks like he was switching sides and issues inside the partisan ecosphere. That is op-like behavior. Thank you, Mark. Isn't all of 5-0 imposters? That's a good point. Carl says Vance Bolter equals Jason Bourne. Oh my God. Thank you, Jay. Ilhan Omar was on that list. Here you go. And thank you, Joey, who's been a member for 23 months, almost 2 years. Woot, woot. Almost 2 years. All right, let's get into the next story, ladies and gentlemen. Smash the like if you haven't had a chance to do so. This is an interesting one. I have talked about the Black Miss Leadership class on this show before. Al Sharpton is one of those people, right? And Al Sharpton is doing something that he likes to do, which is intervene in political elections when he sees that there's a chance that someone who is further left than the status quo Democratic Party is gaining momentum. And he's doing that now. Wait till you see who he decided to align himself with. Zoran Mandami is running for mayor in New York City. Andrew Cuomo also. Zoran and Andrew Cuomo are the top two contenders right now if you look at the poll. Now, since that debate and since the endorsement from AOC, Zoran has now leaped in front of Andrew Cuomo. He is now leading in the latest poll, which is exactly what the establishment does not want. Now, I said before, Zoran to me gives me AOC vibes. Like, I feel like he's talking a good game, but I really feel as though if he got in there that he would become more corporate, that he would agree more with the establishment. It's a DSA thing. And I've brought this up before that I feel like DSA type like candidates, they only go but so far. Once they're elected, they tend to, side a little bit more with the establishment and try to play the game a little bit. And we saw that with members of the squad as well. That being said, he's not Andrew Cuomo, right? Like Zoran doesn't have the cases against him for killing people, all those elderly people in the nursing home. Zoran doesn't have a list of women that accused him for sexual harassment. And so it's interesting, Al Sharpton, being a part of the New York community, has decided to insert himself in this particular race, especially now seeing that Zoran has gained that momentum and is ahead of Andrew Cuomo in the Democrat primary race here for mayor. Just to give you a tidbit before we get to Al Sharpton, Bree had a really good point. Holy shit, imagine if Bernie had gone after Biden like this. Listen to this debate between Andrew Cuomo and Zoran Marandi.
To Mr. Cuomo, I have never had to resign in disgrace. I have never cut Medicaid. I have never stolen hundreds of millions of dollars from the MTA. I have never hounded the 13 women who credibly accused me of sexual harassment. I have never sued for their gynecological records, and I have never done those things because I am not you, Mr. Cuomo. And furthermore, the name is Mamdani, M-A-M-D-A-N-I. You should learn how to say it because we got to get it right. To Mr. Cuomo.
So I think Bree has a really good point here. Imagine if Bernie would have gone after Joe Biden like that when they had the one-on-one debate. Imagine if Bernie would have called out that there is a woman named Tara Reid that has accused you of sexual assault. But that wasn't Bernie's goal. Bernie's goal wasn't really to go after Joe Biden like that. His goal was to help the Democratic Party take the White House back from Donald Trump. That's really what it was about. But he was calling out Andrew Cuomo's, obviously his faulties. Like Cuomo is very corporate, very much corrupt. So one would think that ideally, if you do support civil rights and you've been advocating for civil rights, you would not go after the one candidate that said that Israel should be one state and it should be a secular state, and Palestinians and Israelis should have equal rights under the law, because that is a part of civil rights. But Al Sharpton is doing just that, and he's using identity as the excuse. Shout out to Jason Beeferman for this. Rev Al notes how even though AOC endorsed Zoran Mondami as her number one and Adrian Adams as number two, Zoran endorsed Brad Lander, a white man, as his number two instead of Adrian. Somehow that politics ain't progressive to me. So here's Al Sharpton. There was a meeting recently. He had an event with the National Action Network in Harlem. And this is Al Sharpton playing his role as part of the Black Miss Leadership class. He is there to come in to try to stop any type of progressive policy, etc., any type of energy around that. He's there to come in and shut that down. And the way that he's able to do that is by having that camaraderie with the Black community. So he's speaking to Black people at this event, basically to tell them not to support those types of policies, what would actually benefit the Black community, but to get behind Andrew Cuomo. Because even with the statement here, it is Andrew Cuomo ultimately who Al Sharpton is trying to tell them that they need to get behind and support. I kid you not. And that is very interesting that he used identity. You get it, like, you should have supported Adrian because Adrian is Black, is basically what Al Sharpton is saying. That Zoran's number two should have been Adrian because she's Black, not Brad. That's what he's saying. Like, you don't have to have any substance. You ain't really got to have no damn policy. Just because you're Black, that's what it is. But Al Sharpton now had Andrew Cuomo at the National Action Network event in Harlem, New York, in front of the Black community, and basically telling them, this is the guy who's had our side, who's had our back. But when Andrew Cuomo was governor, which was just like 3 years ago, he said the exact opposite. I want you to remind you what Al Sharpton said here when Andrew Cuomo was called out due to that investigation. Listen.
All right, 8:40. Now, as Pix 11 commemorates Harlem Week, we want to highlight the importance of Harlem as the epicenter of social and political movements that really changed the course of history.
One of the people who led many of those movements is Reverend Al Sharpton, and he is joining us this morning. Good morning, Reverend Al.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good to see you.
I tell you what, this man is always working. We see him in the car this morning, so thank you for spending a little time with us as you're traveling to your office. We do want to start with the situation in Albany, though, Reverend. That situation obviously being Governor Andrew Cuomo and the scandal that surrounds him. Do you think he should resign in the wake of the Attorney General's findings?
Well, I think that it is very difficult for me to see how he can continue to govern. You've heard now the Speaker of the New York State Assembly say they're moving forward with some speed around impeachment proceedings. Once you have lost the confidence of the legislature, whether you feel it is right or wrong, you can't govern. And I think that if I were him, I would resign rather than be impeached, would only be the second governor in the history of the state. I think the more important thing is how we move forward and govern during these serious times. I'm already hearing people that are in the political culture start reaching out to me and others saying, what do you think about this candidate or that candidate? No one has said that anyone is running yet, but they're already seeing the post-Cuomo world because there's going to be an election next year.
Yeah.
So I believe that we cannot lose the people in the midst of all of these scandals.
There's a lot of...
So we could just pause it right there. Okay? Pause it right there. So again, that was Al Sharpton 3 years ago saying that Andrew Cuomo needs to resign because he cannot effectively govern at this point in time. Everybody remember this? Okay. Which made sense, right? Right? Andrew Cuomo had multiple cases of sexual harassment filed against him, different women. He issued a public apology. And like I said before, if you did nothing wrong, what you apologizing for? If you ain't do nothing wrong, what you apologizing for? Then two, on top of that, the nursing home deaths, which he tries to refute till this day, but the evidence shows the contrary, that all those people that died in those nursing homes because Andrew Cuomo didn't want them to be able to get to the hospital to get the treatment that they needed. So when you have people obviously in a small space and there's an illness, obviously it's going to make its way through that small space. Like, you have to take the people out that are sick and get those people the help that they need, get them treated. Andrew Cuomo was like, no, and then didn't want to take accountability for the nursing home deaths. So if Al Sharpton was saying 3 years ago he cannot effectively govern and that he needed to resign, why is this clown now out here pumping him up during the National Action Network in Harlem? This was just this weekend. I don't know why we can't hear it. Eric, do you know why we can't hear it? I'm sorry, guys. We can't hear. You probably have to log in. I don't know what happened. Okay. Yeah, I don't know why we can't hear the sound on that. Eric says he doesn't know either. Could be an Instagram thing. It's probably because you're not logged
National
National
in.
Action Network
Oh.
and Al Sharpton. Bill Clinton was the president. We were fighting against racial profiling, which had been an issue on Highway New Jersey Turnpike. Nobody in the Clinton administration would recognize the march. One cabinet member, HUD Secretary, Andrew Cuomo, came and spoke at that march in 2000, 25 years ago. When we were fighting, Tracy Maitland is here, who's one of the business people that has been an example in our community. And he has with him his wife, Kim, who taught him everything he knows. And Lauren, who's smarter than both of them, who's his daughter. She writes my speeches, but don't tell nobody. They will tell you that we could not get blacks involved, not at the expense of others, just involvement to compete, make a bid, and show that we could compete at Kennedy Airport in LaGuardia. And when he was governor, he did that, as Greg Meek said. So we have a long.
So do you guys see Andrew Cuomo sitting right here? So there's Cuomo sitting right there. And he's going to go on to say that they have a long history together.
Relationship. So I cannot, as I said about Adrian, I've not endorsed candidates, but I will tell you the record of what I know and what is important. And we need substantive talk to our community. We are under siege, and we do not need folks that will not address real stuff.
Okay, let me pause here for just a second. That is him kind of wagging his finger towards Zoran, right? We don't need folks that can't address real stuff. Now, do you see the flip there between Al Sharpton 3 years ago when he said he can't effectively govern, and now he's telling you that Andrew Cuomo is there and has been there for the people? Now, he says he cannot endorse, but he is basically telling all the black people, the black community there in Harlem, that you should get behind Andrew Cuomo. That's his way of kind of giving an underhanded endorsement there to endorse Andrew Cuomo. Well, let me ask you a question, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. Andrew Cuomo is a proud Zionist. A lot of support there for Israel is not something that he hides. He's very vocal about that. And my question that I have is, if Al Sharpton is a champion for civil rights as much as he claims to be, and he really cares about civil rights, then how can you, as a civil rights activist, as someone who supports civil rights, why are you trying to make the case for the candidate that is backing an oppressive state? Why are you trying to make the case for a candidate that is backing a state that has been actively occupying and oppressing people? How would that be any different from you backing, I don't know, someone who supports Jim Crow? You see, this is why I said before, you can't have it both ways. For the Black politicians and the Black activists and the Black pundits like Al Sharpton, you can't have it both ways. You can't say that you're for civil rights here for Black Americans and equality and all that jazz, but you're backing a supremacist state abroad that is occupying and oppressing people. You cannot have it both ways. And that's why you won't see people like Al Sharpton come on this show. I think Bree reached out to him to try to get him on her show. This is why they don't interact in these spaces, because they know I would ask that question. You can't have it both ways. You can't sit up here and say, and his response will probably be, well, you have to remember that during the civil rights movement, you know, we did have collaboration there with the Jewish community as well. Yeah, that's true. But there's a difference between Judaism and Zionism. You are supporting Zionism. So you can't have it both ways. You can't say you're against oppression here, but you're for oppression abroad. You're against oppression for one group, but you're for it for another group. No. The people who are doing that, like Al Sharpton, are people who still want to be in that club. They got into a club. They want to stay there. They've been making a lot of money, and they know life is a lot easier for them in that sense. So you can't have it both ways. And if you're serious about uplifting the Black community and helping the Black community, then why would you even try to make the case for someone like Andrew Cuomo, knowing that he puts Israel first? That means you're not. These gatekeepers, the Black misleadership class, they are part of the reason why we have not gotten what is owed. They're part of the reason why. And to make it worse, he has a large platform. He's on MSNBC. And I can tell you, a lot of younger Black people, we're not following Al Sharpton like that. That's more so some of the older generation, but a lot of younger Black people are not feeling Al because your way of thinking is tired. We have moved beyond that. We see things very differently. Now, to that point, I do want to say something. The numbers do show that Zoran Mondami is not doing well with Black voters. Most Black voters, when polled, are supporting Andrew Cuomo. Now, some of that has to do with name recognition. I would say that's first, right? We really can't help that. I mean, Andrew Cuomo was the governor. He's very well known. He comes from a political family. They know who he is. So Zoran is up against that. But that brings this question. Is he going into Black neighborhoods? Is he speaking to Black communities? Is Zoran's campaign going out and actively speaking to disenfranchised Black communities? Because I want to know why that number is so incredibly low. It should be higher considering the policies that he supports, like freezing the rent, which they say you can't do, which you can do because Mayor de Blasio did it multiple times. So these are some questions, folks, that people need to ask. I don't live in New York. I don't know. I frequent there because it is pretty close to Boston. But these are some questions that need to be asked. How is it that Zoran's numbers with the Black community are not higher, considering the policies that he has? And I ask that because it brings up a question about the DSA type of candidate, because Bernie Sanders ran into this same thing too. Bernie Sanders ran into it with Joe Biden when it came into the Black community. The Black community largely supported Joe Biden over Bernie Sanders. A lot of that had to do with his relationship with Barack Obama, which I would have said, if anything, should have pushed you away from Joe Biden, because Barack Obama didn't help the Black community either. But it's a question that I think that the DSA crowd needs to start to really look into. Why is it that these candidates aren't doing as well with the Black community as the candidates that are not running on those populist messages? I think that's something they need to look into. That's their thing to look into. It's not my thing. You know, I encourage all people to register as independents. I encourage Black people to leave the Democratic Party and register as an independent. That's my push. But the reality is there is something to be said to the point where Al Sharpton felt the need to jump in because Zoran has taken the lead, and this push towards Andrew Cuomo, knowing you said 3 years ago he wasn't fit to govern, but now he is. I just want people to pay attention. I want people to wake up. Let's go to some of the comments, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Roger. Make Minnesota a CBI amendment state. Thank you, Kenman. When Al Sharpton lost weight, it also took pounds off his brain. Interesting. Philip, I still laugh seeing Sharpton in the Malcolm X movie. I forgot about that. Thank you, Roger. Torres says if Mondami wins, he won't run for governor. I saw that. That's pretty interesting. Thank you, Jay. It was a good takedown, but he missed one big point. He also didn't let seniors die in nursing homes due to corruption. There you go. And thank you for the super sticker, Chris Scott. Thank you. Thank you so much. Quick announcement, and we'll go to our final story, folks. Just to remind everybody, I am filming a documentary. It's titled Removed. We are doing a fundraiser for that. We're doing pretty good so far. I'm making a documentary titled Removed about gentrification in Boston. Eric and Corey have gathered great footage so far. We are now working with a professional editor, and he's doing a great job, but we need help with funds. If you can, please help donate. So shout out to everybody that has donated. The goal is $5,000. We're doing pretty good so far. But again, this is to pay our editor, and he's a professional editor. He's doing really great. I'm thankful for him because I can't do what he does. I'm just being honest with you. But we've been working together. I meet with him every week. So I'm excited about that. And what he's put together so far, I really like. And I think you guys are going to like it when it's all done. And we will premiere that here on the channel. We're going to try to, if you can share that link, Eric, we're going to try to get this documentary on Tubi as well. I may have to go through some copyright issue, not copyright, but I may have to go through some licensing paperwork for some of the things, but if we could get it on Tubi, that would be great. So it'd be great to have it there. Thank you so much, Eric. All right. Last story, which is funny as hell. So 2 people are apparently trapped in Israel. One of them is Caitlyn Jenner, and the other one is Scott Jennings, who is one of the hosts on CNN. I just thought this was really interesting considering, they wanted to go over there. Now they're stuck there because Israel attacked Iran on Thursday, and it's been back and forth attacks since then. Now, Scott Jennings has probably been one of the more, Israel defending hosts, one of the more vocal Israel defending hosts, making excuses for everything that they do, feeds a lot of propaganda on CNN, doesn't care about the dead Palestinian children, just an asshole. Like, I'll just be frank about that, a complete asshole. What is it from Meet the Fockers? Asshole. That's what he is. And now he went over to Israel because I guess he thought he needed to, go over there and see things for himself. And now he's stuck there in Israel. This is coming through. CNN Scott Jennings stranded in Israel as Iranian missiles rain down, jarring. Yeah, but Scott is stuck there. So it says that Scott Jennings is stranded in Israel as the country exchanges airstrikes with Iran. He was in listen how they phrase this, the Jewish state. He was in Israel to visit the site of October 7th attack, report on the Hamas hostages when Iran launched its retaliatory missile attack on Friday night. It's pretty jarring. I've seen 2 rounds of missiles tonight, Jennings told Jake Tapper. And then you can see there's him standing there. About 2 seconds after I walked outside, I saw these appear in the sky. And then a little while later, another barrage came and we saw a number of missiles. We saw a number of intercepts take place as well. And after that time, we heard air raid sirens. So it was much closer, really right overhead. And at that point, we were shuffled down into a bomb shelter in the bottom of the hotel. So what I said before, notice how they have protection. They have a shelter they can run to. People in Gaza don't have shelter. They don't have underground, like the bomb shelters that they could run to. So you see what I was saying about that, how lucky they have it. Jennings recorded video of Iran's missile launch from the roof of his hotel on the Sea of Galilee in northern Israel, roughly 100 times north of the attack target on Tel Aviv. Not joking, please, everybody inside. A man can be heard saying in the background, again, ain't nobody tell you go over there. You wanted to go over there. And you can see just some of the devastation that was after that first retaliatory attack from Iran. If you look at some of the images on X, you'll see a lot more that I can't show on here. But yeah, some of the pictures, you may look at it and say, hey, that almost looks like Gaza. So he went there, he wanted to go there and, you know, be all like big and bad and stuff. And now he is stuck there because Israel decided to strike Iran. I want to take you back to some of the instances where he tried to defend Israel at all costs, fed a lot of propaganda. But before we do that, listen to what he says here, how he tries to make the case for Israel attacking Iran. Listen to this. President Trump told Iran they had 60 days to make a deal. They didn't listen. Now they're paying the price. And again, be very careful about the rhetoric that's coming from Western media. If you want to see what's really been happening over there, you'll see that Israel is getting hit hard by Iran. You can see those images and videos on X. Some of you can probably see those on Telegram channels as well. But Western's media job is to convince you that it's the other way around. They don't want you to really know that Israel they have really been getting through that Iron Dome. Right? So watch him make the excuse. Now, all of a sudden, it's okay because it was Israel that decided to strike first.
Well, what I've been made to believe is that, yes, this was part of an elaborate ruse to really trick Iran. I mean, the amount of planning that went into this, when you look at what Israel did on the ground in Iran, when you look at the massive planning that they had to undergo over a long period of time to get ready to pull this off, and then everything that happened on the world stage, I do think President Trump was part of a ruse here. I mean, but you go back 60 days in time, Jake, you know, about 60 days ago, Donald Trump said, yeah, they've got about 60 days to make a deal. So, you know, they didn't do that. And now they're paying the price for.
So you see what he's doing, right? So he's trying to make the excuse for Israel striking first. This is the same guy that told you since October 7th that Israel had every right to do what they were doing in Gaza because Hamas decided to attack them. He was like, who attacked who first? Now, to that claim, we always go back to the beginning, right? We always tell people, actually, no, it was Israel. It was the European settlers. It was the Zionists that came in and started attacking the Palestinian people and have continued to do so, occupied them, oppressed them, going all the way back to the Nakba. They were the ones who attacked first. Don't forget that prior to October 7th, Israel goes into Gaza and mows the lawn. They've been doing this for years. But with this particular situation, he brings up the 60 days, but he doesn't tell you that Donald Trump was scheduled to meet with them on Sunday. So what does Israel do? They attack them a couple days before Sunday. They attacked on Thursday. Donald Trump was scheduled to meet with Iran on Sunday. That's what he doesn't tell you. This is the propaganda. It's the Western propaganda. And now he's over there in Israel to try to make the case for Israel and say, oh my God, look at what I've seen. Again, ain't nobody tell you go over there. He volunteered to go over there. Now you stuck there.
Not dealing with the West when it comes to their development of a nuclear weapon. I mean, when you're here on the ground, this is my first trip to Israel. I've talked to a lot of people. I've been to the Gaza border. I've been to the Lebanon border. I've been all over this place.
He went to the Gaza border. he did not go inside of Gaza. So you haven't been all over that place. You see this?
Living with a nuclear-armed Iran is not a possibility for these people. It's an existential threat to them. Living with Hamas and other Iranian terror proxies, that's not really acceptable to them either after what happened on October the 7th. So everyone here in Israel has a lot of resolve right now, I think, for what's going on and not letting Iran, which is the head of this octopus over here, get away with developing missiles and weapons that if they got them, they have no doubt would immediately fire them into Israel.
You see, a lot of people are being exposed, ladies and gentlemen, because they have told you since October 7th that, well, Hamas decided to attack them first, which was not the case. Israel has been attacking the Palestinian people. Now that Israel is on record attacking Iran first, now they're saying that's okay. You see how people are exposing themselves, right? Let's take you back to this time right here when Scott Jennings said that Biden and Kamala were putting too much pressure on Israel. Listen to this.
I mean, there's a huge amount of Democrats who are siding against Israel in this conflict in the Middle East. And the Biden and Harris administration, particularly now with Harris in the lead, I think are putting way more pressure and blame on Israel than they ought to be. And look, this is a political argument he's making, that if you want a president that's going to stand with Israel, our ally, and not treat them terribly in the middle of this war and all the things they've got going on, then pick the Republicans this time. I mean, there's a huge...
So do you guys see what's happening here with Mr. Scott, right? So didn't we tell you that Biden and Kamala were all in on this? That Biden and Kamala were not putting pressure on Israel. And that was revealed after Donald Trump won the presidential election. Israel revealed information showing that Biden and Kamala never, ever, ever asked for a ceasefire. That was all a joke. Just like you're seeing it being revealed now that there never was this disagreement between Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu. That was all a joke. This was all agreed to in private. That was to make people think that, okay, we're trying to put some type of pressure there and we're trying to be peace people, but they're not. They're all in on it. So that was him lying to you then, letting you know, oh, they're putting too much pressure on Israel. They never, ever, ever asked for a ceasefire. That was all an act. And Scott is a part of that same type of propaganda, ladies and gentlemen. He's a big part of that. Here's another one. Don't forget, Scott was also one of the commentators who went on to say free Palestine were terrorist people.
Well, I mean, this is horrific. And what more do we need to see, Jake, before we realize this free Palestine movement is nothing more than a domestic terror organization right now? I mean, we had the killings in Washington a couple of weeks ago. We have this issue in Colorado. We've seen, the activities on college campuses now for months and months and months and months. The rise of anti-Semitism in America, the rise in the number of people who have come to America who hold anti-American views, anti-Western views, and anti-Semitic views, and are now willing to act on it. It is absolutely outrageous. And I think as a society, we need to understand we are dealing with domestic terrorism. It's growing more violent by the day. And if we don't deal with it, these kinds of things are going to keep happening in cities all over the place. It's awful. And we need to come to grips with the fight that we're in right now in America, a fight for the future of our country and the future of Western civilization, in my opinion. Well, I mean, this guy's face tells you, his face to me says, don't trust in me because I'm about to make some things up. Like his face really always said that to me. Don't believe anything I say. I'm a BSer. By the way, all these people on CNN are friends. All these people are homies behind the scene. When they have those panels with Abby Phillips, they try to create some type of argument. That's for you. That's for the audience. That's theater. Behind the scene, these people are homies. They're actors. They're not journalists. I don't even know if I want to call them commentators anymore. I just call them actors. Even if you see here, when this young woman basically had to read Scott to his face.
President Trump, again, today suggested that the United States would have ownership over Gaza. And he said it when he was sitting next to the King of Jordan. So how is that being interpreted?
I mean, I think the Arab League convened immediately a summit, and they immediately rejected en masse the whole idea. He cannot own Gaza because it's not his. Plus, Gazan and Palestinians' right to return and live in their own country is enshrined in international law. What President Trump seems not to understand, that international law is not option. And it's not an option for Putin or for him. And the worst thing that he is now threatening to withhold aid from two major allies.
Although he did
Jordan
walk
and
that
Egypt.
back. I was just going to ask you. I mean, today he suggested, okay, maybe we won't do that.
Because he understood it's not a charity. This is what he didn't understand before, and he understood it today when the King of Jordan explained to him this was about a peace and security deal that these two allies actually signed with the United States, and they were the first actually to normalize relationship with Israel. The first actually to stand up when the Iranians sent the missile in April. Who stood up to that and basically shut down the missile? It was Jordan because of that peace deal. If we decide that that peace deal is null and void, all hell can break truly loose, and then you will find yourself in a war with 400 million people in an entire region that today reject that proposition. Not only because it's illegal, but because simply this is the same argument and the same issue that triggered all of this conflict for the last 75 years.
It's not the first time actually that this has been put on the table, and the first time it was pretty disastrous what occurred afterwards.
Yeah, a couple things. Number one, the reason we're here with this hostage situation this weekend is because Hamas decided to stop participating in the deal that was brokered as Donald Trump was coming into office.
Actually, the Israeli newspapers today says that Israel violated the ceasefire.
So do you see? This is Scott's job, right? This is Scott's job to continue the propaganda. That is what he's there for. Now, let me tell you what they're doing with these shows. Like, then they'll bring on people like her to make you seem like, oh, we're trying to represent all sides, but they're not. Like, these people, this woman here, how often is she going to be brought onto CNN? Why is she not a part of the regular panel? You see what I'm saying? Because they know that they're up against independent media. They know that, oh, wait a minute, people are starting to look to other places for information. Some of the same people who made fun of us, like Joy Reid, now have their own YouTube political show. So this is what I've been saying. They know that people are going to look in other places, right? So here he goes. Let me come in and blame it on Hamas. Never will admit what Israel did wrong. Never. He never does it.
Emily, it's not my position. It's the Israeli newspaper and the New York Times and Israeli politician.
But our ally is Israel, and you can't trust Hamas.
But our allies violated the ceasefire.
And who started it in the beginning? Who started it in the first place?
Who started it in the beginning? Now that Israel started the strike with Iran, now all of a sudden that does not matter. Do you guys get the propaganda that people like Scott do? So as far as I'm concerned, Scott, you trapped in Israel. How about you stay there? Because if this is such a wonderful place that you say it is, and they're all good meaning, you can stay right there. You won't have to come back here, Scott. If you have a problem with the protests and the protesters in America, as much as you say that you do, you can stay your ass right in Israel. That where you say everything is so great. You can stay right there. Stay right there with them. Don't come back here. Bye. That's how I see it. Now, all of a sudden, it goes back to who started it. Hamas did this. But if you mention today that Israel struck Iran, it's, well, no, they had no choice because of what Iran was going to do. So now it's okay to do stuff to people based on what we think they're going to do. I have heard this since I was a child. Since I was a kid, that Iran is trying to get nuclear weapons. And if you are falling for this, I have to remind you of Iraq. I have to remind you of what happened after September 11th. What happened when they sat up there and they brainwashed you? Our politicians, Western media alike, brainwashed you and told you that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction. And that's why American troops had to go over there and fight. Don't fall for it again. And they've been trying to prepare you for this for Iran. That's why I've been hearing it since I was a kid. They've been saying Iran is trying to they want to have nuclear weapons. They trying to drill it in your head so that when they make the case to go to war with Iran, you will accept it. When American troops go over there and die, you will accept it. And Scott is a big part of that propaganda. So like I said, Scott, since everything's so great over there for you, you stay right there, Scott, okay? Stay there. Don't come back. Yada, yada. Yada, yada. Because see, this is what Scott is dealing with right now. This is what they're seeing. This is just some of the damage. And if we didn't tell you, you may have thought maybe that was Gaza. Shout out to Alon. Alon said, this is not Gaza, this is Israel. You see? So yeah, Iran was not messing around. But Scott isn't alone because Caitlyn Jenner also was trapped there. Scott is trapped with Caitlyn Jenner. You have to hear this because she is there for the month of Pride, right? So let me tell you what she says.
My pleasure.
Now,
My pleasure to be here. And I guess we just start. We go.
Now, Meitale Havi will greet you. She's our deputy mayor for LGBTQ community.
Nice to see you. Wait a second. Maybe there's a button we didn't push.
Yeah. Here it is. The freedom and democracy of our country, unless like our neighbor, you know. Yes. And Tel Aviv Yafo is really the house of the community. And we
LA is kind of burning right now, but fortunately I live in Malibu on the other side, so I'm not near any of that stuff. But yeah, the world in a lot of ways is going crazy. Let me tell you the reason I'm here. I was in Israel years ago, and I had such a wonderful time. And I met the nicest, friendliest people, I think, in any country I've ever been to in my life. Everybody had a smile on their face. Everybody was having a good time. And I thought someday I would really like to come back. Recently, I did an article in one of your publications, Dora, where he's around here somewhere. He did the article, came to my house, and it was so well received that I think this is probably an outreach of continuing what that is. I live, obviously, in the United States. I tell people, I said, you know, the second biggest pride event in the world is in Tel Aviv. And every response is exactly the same. They go, what? What?
So do you see what's happening here, right? Do you see what Caitlyn's trying to do? She's trying to use the LGBT community. She's trying to convince the LGBT community to accept Israel. Therefore, they can accept what Israel is doing. It's pandering. It's like the same type of pandering that people do towards the Black community, right? Like, did you know, just like Juliana Margulies, when she made that crazy ass statement and got grilled for it, when she said, did you Black people know that it was us who were out there marching with you? Did you guys even know that? Okay. You want a cookie? It's pandering to the LGBTQ community. This is so ridiculous. Well, they have the second largest pride parade. So that's why you should support Israel. Almost like an infomercial. So you can forget about the kids that they're killing because they have the second largest pride parade. More pandering.
Tel Aviv? Are you kidding me? And I go, no, Tel Aviv. The Israeli people are very open-minded. They're friendly. They're, they're great for the LGBT community. And nobody knows it. To be honest with you, I think you guys have a marketing problem because maybe I can come out and help market this a little bit. And so, honestly, that's one of the main reasons while I'm here. I want to bring a little bit of light in my small way that I can. And I think if everybody does a little something, we can change people's minds, the perception of what Israel is all about. And so honestly, that's why I'm here, to do my little part. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes.
So that's why Caitlyn Jenner was there to do her part. So they have somehow rounded up Caitlyn Jenner to get her to convince the LGBT community that Israel is a good place. Like, the pandering is so sad. So sad. And now you see, so that's why Caitlyn was there. And now you'll see that also Caitlyn Jenner is also stuck in Israel. Caitlyn Jenner stuck in Israel after Iran strike, post pictures of chaos and shelter. Like, I can't, you can't make this up, folks. And it says here, Jenner shared several social media posts declaring allegiance with Israel and showing sights of the country and subsequent chaos. So it's just, so here's the thing, fam. Okay, Caitlyn and Scott, you guys there, you stay there, okay? Since it's such a great place, you guys just stay right there. Since America's so bad, and there's all these protests, you don't like protests, you don't like this. Since we are such bad people, and you don't like that people are speaking out against the genocide, you stay right there. Let me know how well that works out for you. There's no turning back, fam. There's no turning back from this. And the type of pandering that happens is just absolutely disgusting. But listen to this. George Galloway lets it know. Look, he said they were laughing. They're not laughing now. Check it out.
Well, you definitely don't want to miss the mother of all talk shows, Sunday at 7 p.m. UK. This has been one of the most remarkable few days in recent history. Israel and then the United States were bragging, boasting, chests puffed out at how they'd pulverized Iran in just a few hours. They were laughing. They're not laughing now.
Yeah, really good point. They were laughing, but they're not laughing now. It's just crazy, guys. They can stay there since everything's so great there, and everybody here who was speaking out against genocide is bad and are bad people. You guys stay right there with Israel, and you have fun at that. Have fun at that. Let's go to some of the comments here. JB Font says she can stay there. She can have all the car accidents she wants while not paying attention to the road in Israel. Yes. Yeah, I remember that. Thank you, Roger. Nope, not at all. The GP, WSB, and DSA won't see us. Thank you, Mark. Hey, Sab, is that a slice of bacon on the backboard? A slice of bacon. Oh, it does look like a slice of bacon. I never realized that on the chalkboard. It was not supposed to be, but it does look like a slice of bacon. Probably making everybody hungry now. Thank you, Paul. Who told you to go to Israel, Scott, and keep lying? Thank you, Joan. Free Palestine movement is organic. That's right, Joan. Thank you, Manny. Sabby, can you get Carl Zah and KG Noah as guests? I can try to. I think Carl Zah is in high demand. I can try to, though. Thank you. And thank you, David. Pride for genocide is the most honest marketing. Isn't it crazy? Like Caitlyn Jenner should be ashamed of herself, but she's not. Like, she all over the damn place. It's like you want to speak up for like marginalized group, it's like you want to speak up for the LGBT community, but you want to support a genocidal state at the same time. You all over the damn place. I ain't got time for it. Ladies and gentlemen, that is it for me. Thank you so much for joining me earlier today. I know I usually am live at 5 p.m. Eastern on Sunday, but thank you for joining me. I hope you guys have a really good Father's Day. I didn't get a chance to mention that earlier. Shout out to the dads in the house. Shout out to the daddy-os. And I hope you get to spend some time with your fathers and them with you. And thank you for the super sticker, Merlin. Thank you so much. Shout out to the dads, Thank you guys. That is it for me. Catch me live Tuesday evening, 7 p.m. Eastern time. Have a good night. Keep up the fight.